the world hit a record for carbon dioxide emissions this year. The research by the Global Carbon Project shows an estimated 2.7 increase in CO2 emissions since last year. That there had been some optimism in the last decade and that people thought U.S. emissions were decreasing, but turns out not so true.
Right. So between 2014 and 2016, emissions had stabilized. And scientists had their fingers crossed, their toes crossed, everything crossed, because there was a chance that we had stabilized emissions. Not the case. Last year it went up 1.7%, this year 2.7%.
Yemen has always been desperately poor, but the war has made things worse. Children are the most affected by malnutrition. Here, hunger has left 1.5 million children starving. The hospital is overwhelmed with children, but in some cases, malnutrition has turned into outright starvation. According to UN figures, there are now 370,000 children with the same level of malnutrition.
I never imagined I would ever see a child like this in Yemen. This boy is starving. It scares me that it may be the beginning of a famine.
We need to do something about this. We need to make a change, and right now. Let us introduce our solution.
Hello, my name is Iris.
I'm Alice. And I'm Millie. In this video, we are going to explain why crickets will save the world. So in this group, Iris is the coordinator who pushes us forward and acts like a spokesperson. Millie acts as the editor who finds holes in our plans and makes sure we don't leave anything out.
And Alice acts as a secretary who keeps track of our progress and things organized. We came across this competition and found the prompt to be very interesting but challenging. Yet, challenge accepted.
After doing research, we learned how meat production emits more carbon than any other production in the agricultural world. However, there are still countries that are facing starvation, so therefore we seek to find a solution for both problems. And our solution is to find a replacement. So before we start with anything, here are some background information that one should know. First off, the world's carbon emission origin percentage. Figure 1 is a graph we made according to the data presented by foodemissions.com. We can see that agriculture comes in second place for carbon emissions, tailing closely behind electricity and heat production. As we researched deeper into this matter, we found out that in the agriculture field, livestock production stands 31% of the carbon emissions. Thus, we decided that this will be a problem we want to solve. For this project, we will be focusing on a specific country, Yemen, where chicken, as known as poultry, takes up the majority of the population's diet. The demand for chicken is increasing as seen in this graph, producing more carbon at the same time. It seems definite that our love for meat won't change. However, is there a way for us to consume less meat but still get protein? A substitution perhaps. What is something that's filled with proteins but produces little amount of carbon gases? Our first idea and our final idea is insects. If we could make a dish out of insects without showing their physical appearance, it could be popularized, and subsequently, people may consume less meat. So our final proposal is the following: to create a delicious dish, snack, or food product by using primarily insects and use them as its protein source to not only help societies that are running out of food, but also to reduce the need for meat, thus decreasing carbon emissions. Dough is one of the most basic ingredients for food products, its existence tracing back to early civilizations. But this time we made a twist. We are introducing a foreign food source, crickets, and merging it with flour named cricket flour. Cricket flour acts just like any other flour. It could be made into numerous food products, but there's one Chinese food that requires minimal ingredients, and that is Chinese pancakes, dropping. And here's what we made. The only ingredients needed are flour, water,
oil, salt, and a heat source. And how does our product help with hunger? These ingredients are resources that are easily found, and Chinese pancakes can fill up people's stomachs quickly. With the addition of crickets, the people would also be able to consume lots of proteins. By eating cricket Chinese pancakes, people suffering from hunger can fill up their stomachs in the simplest, cheapest, and most nutritious form. As stated previously, we're focusing on Yemen. Why? Because according to the Global Hunger Index, Yemen places second when it comes to countries that are experiencing hunger and malnutrition. The climate in Yemen is subtropical, receiving very little rain, and therefore limits its agricultural production such as wheat, which they do still grow, but instead growing crickets, which only requires a minimal amount of water. Thus, these food sources can be easily maintained in Yemen's arid climate. The population also faces a severe lack of protein, which could also be solved.
So let's start off with some calculations. Assuming that we need to provide the entire population of Yemen with sufficient amount of protein. Instead of using chicken, one of the most popular meat they consume, we use crickets. What aspects will change? After research and calculations, 1 pound of crickets will only require 1 gallon of water, while 1 pound of chicken will require nearly 2,522 gallons of water. That's 2,000 times the amount of water for crickets. Now, assume all these farms are using water pumps, which emits more carbon than burning natural gases. Thus, reducing the amount of water used can reduce the emissions of carbon. In terms of nutrients, according to this table that we made after many research and comparisons, besides isoleucine, crickets contain more essential nutrients and amino acids compared to the same amount of chicken. Crickets are actually more beneficial for consumers. Another thing is, 1 pound of chicken in Yemen costs 955 Qatari rial, that is equivalent to 7,892 new Taiwanese dollars. On the other hand, 1 pound of cricket flour costs on average 1,203.5 new Taiwanese dollars. Cricket flour would be more affordable for the majority of the population. On top of that, 1 pound of cricket flour, if used efficiently, can be used to make a different and great amount of food that will definitely help starvation. To see if people would be willing to eat crickets, we created a survey and made a graph out of the results. 48% of the people are willing to eat crickets. 30% will be willing only if they can't see the physical features of the insects, while 22% answered with a definite no. 3 major concerns that people have said in the survey. The first one is allergy concerns. Being allergic to crickets is very rare, but one should still be careful. Usually, a person who is allergic to shellfish will be allergic to crickets, since they have similar characteristics, according to nyallergies.com. Consumers should be self-aware of their allergies before consuming crickets to prevent casualties. Another thing is sanitation. We believe that all the crickets should be house crickets, which are farmed indoors. Thus, the environment, equipment, and the crickets themselves can be regularly inspected. Certain standards should be set and data should be recorded on a daily basis to make sure the entire farming process is organized and clean. And in terms of reproduction rates, there's no need to worry. Crickets can produce as much eggs within a week as a hen can lay eggs in a year.
And these are the reasons we believe crickets, or more specifically cricket flour, will be a solution to decreasing carbon emissions while solving hunger problems.
Not only will people be able to save the earth, but we will also receive the same or even more nutrients than eating meat and plus with a much cheaper price.
Throughout our research and experiment processes, we didn't waste any resources and made sure we used the resources we have efficiently.
We sincerely believe it has the potential to be implemented in the near future. And that's that. Thank you for listening to our presentation.